Okay, let's jump right in. Think about it. How many different usernames, different passwords do you juggle every day just to get online?
It's uh it's a lot. Constantly trying to remember which one goes where.
Exactly. It's this constant act. But what if one of the accounts you're probably already using quite a bit could actually make that simpler?
Well, that's where this gets interesting. OpenAI,
Yeah.
the company behind ChatGPT, they seem to be exploring exactly that.
Right.
There was a TechCrunch article, I think May 27th, just recently,
Yeah.
talking about a potential sign-in with ChatGPT feature.
Yeah, for logging into other apps and services.
Precisely.
Imagine just clicking that button instead of, another sign-up form. Sounds pretty slick.
It does.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this. What is this feature, potentially? Why would OpenAI be doing this now? And crucially, what could it mean for, well, for you?
Okay, so starting with the what. From what OpenAI has put out there, mostly on a web page they set up, it seems they're testing the waters.
Gauging interest from developers, right?
Well,
People who build the apps we use.
exactly. Seeing if they'd want to build this sign-in with ChatGPT option into their apps.
And it's not just talk. They've apparently got a preview going for developers, specifically within something called Codex CLI.
Yeah, Codex CLI, that's their tool for AI coding in the terminal. It's open source.
Right. And through that, developers could link their ChatGPT accounts free, Plus, or even the Pro ones, to their API accounts.
Which is basically how different software talks to each other, the API. It lets developers hook their apps into OpenAI systems.
And to sweeten the deal, API credits.
Yeah, that caught my eye too. They offered incentives to try this sign-in function, like $5 in API credits for Plus users.
Okay.
And $50 for Pro users.
$50. Wow. Okay.
So yeah, basically free access to their tools to encourage developers to play around with this integration.
So that definitely points towards seriousness. But the big question is why? Why would OpenAI, already huge in AI, want to get into the sign-in game?
Well, one massive factor has to be their user base. The article mentioned something like 600 million monthly active users for ChatGPT.
600 million, that's staggering.
It really is. And if you think about it, that's this enormous built-in audience they could tap into.
Right, expand their footprint beyond just the chatbot itself.
Exactly. Into online shopping, maybe social media, even our personal devices potentially. It's a huge opportunity.
And it puts them right up against the big players, doesn't it? Apple, Google, Microsoft, they all have their established sign-in buttons.
Absolutely. This feels like a direct move to compete in that space, to become maybe a more central part of how we navigate online.
And maybe leverage their AI in that sign-in process somehow. Could that be part of it?
That's a fascinating thought. AI-powered authentication, or maybe tying experiences across apps back to your ChatGPT profile. That's something the others aren't really doing yet.
Okay, so the ambition is clear. What evidence do we have that they're really pushing this?
Well, going back to that developer outreach, the interest form they put out asks some telling questions.
Like what?
Like the size of the developer's app user base. And the options range from, under 1,000 weekly users all the way up to over 100 million.
Wow, so they're thinking big and small, covering the whole spectrum.
Seems like it. They're clearly aiming for broad adoption, not just niche applications.
And didn't the forum also ask about how developers are currently making money from AI features? And if they use the OpenAI API already?
It did, yeah. It suggests they're trying to map out the landscape, figure out who's already bought into their tech, and might be a good fit for this kind of integration.
It lines up with what their CEO, Sam Altman, apparently said back in 2023.
Oh, right. He mentioned potentially exploring a sign-in with OpenAI feature maybe in 2024.
So it's a bit later now, 2025, but the fact it's actively being worked on shows this wasn't just a passing comment. It's been on the roadmap.
Definitely moving from idea to, well, at least early stage development.
Okay, but like any story that's still unfolding, there are obviously things we don't know yet.
For sure.
Yeah.
The big one mentioned in the article is, when could this actually go live for regular users? For you? We just don't know.
And we also don't know how many companies have actually raised their hands, shown interest, or signed up for this initial phase.
Right. TechCrunch noted that OpenAI didn't get back to them immediately for comment, which, well, it could just mean they're busy, or maybe they're keeping things under wraps while they finalize plans.
Still very early days, it sounds like.
Feels that way.
So, okay, let's pivot this back to the listener. What could this mean for you if sign-in with ChatGPT becomes a real thing?
Well, the most obvious potential upside is convenience, right?
Fewer passwords. That alone sounds amazing.
Definitely appealing. One less set of login details to manage, but
There's always a but.
There often is. You have to
Eh,
think about data privacy. If your ChatGPT account is the key to unlocking lots of other services, how is that data being used? Is it shared?
Yeah, that's a big question. How much information flows between ChatGPT and, say, a shopping site you log into?
Exactly. And it's that classic trade-off. Convenience versus control.
Yeah.
Or maybe convenience versus potential lock-in.
Lock-in, right. If everything starts running through your OpenAI account, does it become harder to switch away later if you wanted to?
It could, potentially,
Huh.
become more embedded in their ecosystem.
And thinking about the bigger picture, the competition, if this takes off.
It could seriously shake things up. Apps integrating this early might get a leg up, especially if they can attract that large existing ChatGPT user base.
So it could change which apps become popular based partly on how easy they are to sign into using this method.
It's certainly possible. It adds another layer to the competitive dynamics online.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the main points here. OpenAI is definitely exploring this sign in with ChatGPT.
Yeah, seems like a clear strategy to use that huge user base, get into the single sign-on market, and really challenge the existing tech giants.
But it's still early. They're talking to developers, running previews, offering credits, but no public launch date yet.
Exactly. It signals big ambitions, wanting to be even more central to our online lives. But the details and timing are still fuzzy.
All right, so that leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. As this develops, think about this. What kind of apps or online services would you actually find useful to sign into with ChatGPT? Where would it make the biggest difference for you?
And alongside that, what are the benefits you see, but also what are the potential drawbacks or concerns that come to your mind?
Definitely something to keep watching.